Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA draft and the Motor City Cruise.
And all right, so this is going to be like our last hurrah here for preseason content. The Pistons, yesterday at the time of this recording, finished up their final preseason game against the Cavs. So now we're just kind of gearing up and waiting for the regular season to get going. That'll be against the Pacers. But guys, if you're tuning in live, one, as always, thank you. We appreciate it. Leave a like, subscribe, what have you. All the usual stuff that really helps us out. But two, you can see that Blake just got his fresh cut. The haircut's looking nice. He's looking sharp. He told me he got it on Tuesday. So Blake, my question for you, when you show up at the barber, what's your command, right? What do? You sit down in the chair, they say, what do you want? What are you going with?
Oh man, my guy knows me now. Shout out to Bear at Rochester Barbershop. If you're somewhere out there listening, Bear, you're my guy. But yeah, he knows me now. But if I'm going to someone new, I just say, let me get like a 2 on the sides, and maybe, like, depending on how long my hair has got, 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch off the top. Pretty simple guy, but I got crazy like colics and stuff, so I always feel bad subjecting whoever to that. So what's your move?
Well, hey, crazy colics, what does that even mean? I'm not a haircut connoisseur, so I don't understand all the terms, the jargon. Come on, help me out.
It's just like weird parts of my hair that like go ways that that doesn't make sense. And because I think
is that not just like curly hair, or is that something different?
It is curly hair. Like if I grew my hair out really long, it would get curly, but I think I'd have to look up the exact definition, but it's just like parts of your hair that probably like go away that doesn't make sense, essentially.
Gotcha. All right. I like it. I don't know. I would have guessed, looking at you, I would have guessed like a 1 faded up on the sides. I don't think I would have gone with the 2.
Yeah, I try not to get it too short, but I mean, it does look kind of short, but it's hard to find time in the day to go. It's important though, like self-care and everything. But yeah, I try to make it, my hair grows so fast, so I try to make it so if I can't make it in a few weeks or whatever, I'm still okay.
No, I used to do all the same exact stuff when I kept it shorter, but I've been growing mine out more, right? So my order, I guess, the haircut order, I've been doing just the scissor cut, and natural part, no hard part, anything like that, and just take maybe starting with 1.5 inches or so, or not 1.5 inches, a 1/2 inch, and then if that's not enough, I'll have them kind of incrementally up from there. So. The last time I got my haircut, the lady there, it's at the Man Cave out in the Grand Rapids area. That's a great spot. I like it. They got all the TVs. Like
Nice.
we were talking a little bit before, but they got all the TVs, the sports stuff going on. So it's a nice vibe in there. But the gal asked if we wanted to trim up my sideburns a little bit. I was like, I didn't even know this was an option. Let's go. Absolutely. Please do that. So yeah, that's my haircut move these days.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, the chair I sit in at the barber shop is like, it has me look directly off is like a mirror, and then next to the mirror is like
Nice.
this 1950s Pistons like schedule that's pretty awesome. So yeah, the place I go to is like old school, a bunch of like vintage sports stuff hanging on the wall. Great vibe all around.
All right, last barbershop question before we get into our usual Pistons content. We're going to be a style show here for a second, guys. But have you done like the hot lather shave? Have you gotten that before with the straight razor with the barber? I haven't, but I want to. It looks so cool.
No, I do not have enough facial hair to be able to do that.
You don't need facial hair to do that. If you're shaving it all, they can take it off for you.
Well, I get like the back of the neck.
Yeah.
They do that every time, but I haven't done it on my face. I've just never felt a need, I guess. But yeah, it seems nice. Maybe it is something like a treat yourself thing eventually, just to see how it goes.
That's like, for me, that's like an obscure bucket list item. Like, I would love to do that one day. I've just never been brave enough to commit to it. There's something freaky about just that straight razor, and it's not your hand running it, right? But the lather, the hot lather feels so good, like you said, on the back of the neck. Like, I gotta imagine that's a fantastic shave. So I just, obscure bucket list for me.
Yeah, that's nice. I was telling you before we hopped on, I used to go to a bougier place before I found my guy Bear, and there were people there who got like the beard trims, and they did this whole thing where after I think they like steamed it or like
Oh,
steamed their
interesting.
like face or something, and I never did it because I was like, yeah, I don't have the facial hair, but I was like, that seems kind of nice.
I've never even heard of that, but that does sound pretty nice. I mean, it's like
Yeah, it
going in a
tells
steam
you
room, but for your face.
exactly, yeah. So, it's something, but hey, haircuts are expensive now, so
Mhm.
you gotta find the right spot, and the person who you go to, just you gotta be confident in someone so you know what you're getting every time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into some Pistons stuff. So we're going to end up doing a few predictions. We're going to end up each making three predictions, kind of talking those through. But before we do that, preseason just wrapped up, right? So maybe, it doesn't have to be about any of the games specifically, even about any of the players specifically, but if you had one or two overarching takeaways from what we've seen so far this preseason, what would they be? I know we talked a little bit about this last episode, but there have been 3 games, no, 4 games since then, I think. So, how has it changed? What are the vibes? What's your overall takeaways?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing to me, I mean, if you want to take it individually, you can definitely look to something like Jaden Ivey, who's looked great over the preseason, and how just a new situation with a new coach, new team context will help him. But the biggest takeaway for me, I think, is just we spent all this time talking about spacing, and it was finally addressed in the off season, and I mean even a little bit last season with the acquisition of Simone Fontecchio, but seeing it in action in the preseason, and it was a little bit of a slow start because Tobias Harris was out for a bit when he had COVID, but it's been really eye popping to me just to see the outlets that some of these guys have in the corners, on the wings, to be able to kick the ball out to and trust someone to knock down a shot. I feel like it's been a long time. I mean, certainly there's those players that you think are capable of knocking down shots like Bojan Bogdanovic, but he wasn't really, he spaces the floor, but I feel like he was trying to create more for himself too. So just the fact that these guys have a Tobias Harris, a Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. had a rough start to the preseason, but he knocked down some shots against Cleveland in the last game. I mean, that is just one for the younger players, what it will do for them, but two, also just as a watcher and for all the fans being able to see those guys leak out there and be an outlet for your young players. And most of all, just trust them to be able to knock down a shot, I think will do wonders for the team.
Well, absolutely. I mean, plenty of people talk about this all the time, but it's kind of a feedback loop, right? In this case, it's a positive one. Like when the right play for a young guard is to kick the ball out to the corner to an open shooter, it is a very good thing if that ball goes through the hoop then afterwards, because then you're not getting a young Cade Cunningham kicking the ball out, seeing, I don't know, like whoever Killian Hayes brick the three and then think, well, I should have just taken the contested layup myself, right? Like that is the wrong basketball play. So I think, that was one of my takeaways too, was just that all of this spacing that was added, it's actually going to play. Those guys that can shoot are actually going to see minutes out on the floor, and that is going to be really helpful. I mean, it's going to be helpful for Cade. I wonder if, as a playmaker, it might be more helpful for Jaden Ivey. Cade at this point feels pretty. Not that he can't improve anymore, and I'm not saying that he certainly will. He's got plenty of growth left as a player, but as a playmaker, we kind of know what he is and what he isn't, and he already generally tries to make the right play more often than not. So, like, I'm not too worried about this feedback thing with him. I wasn't too worried about it with him last year either, right? More of the concern with spacing with Cade is just having the physical space to operate as a ball handler, to make his life a little easier in that way. But I wonder if a guy like Jaden Ivey, who is still young, who is still figuring out who he is as a ball handler and playmaker for others, if now kind of correcting that feedback loop where now when he's kicking the ball out, he's kicking it out to Malik Beasley, Fontecchio, Harris out in the corner, and they're knocking it down more often than not, right? I wonder if that helps further him along a little bit more quickly than maybe even we would have expected this season.
Certainly. And I think one of the things that JB Bickerstaff said when he was introduced is like helping get Jaden Ivey the ball when he's on the move and picking up steam. Cause we've seen him, I mean, he can beat almost anybody with how quick his first step is. And I've seen some great signs with him getting to the rim and everything like that. But just like a critique you could say of Jaden Ivey as a rookie, his second year, and he's definitely gotten better at this, but sometimes it's just driving to the rim and going up without really a plan. And I think this just gives him more options where, I mean, of course he has to make the right read and everything like that, but just the fact that he has veteran floor spacer shooters that he can trust and kick the ball out to. And if it's the right look, trust him to make that. Or if it's the right look to go up with the ball, trust him to do that as well. But yeah, I mean, definitely all the acquisitions are to help Cade, but I think you'll see some other effects of some other players, most notably Jaden Ivey, that it can help as well.
All right, let's jump into some of these predictions. So we're each, like I said, going to do three. The first one is, let's just call our shot right off the bat. How many wins are these Pistons going to get this season? What's your gut feeling?
I'm gonna put this one on you. I got to do my first, my biggest takeaway, and I mainly just don't want to say the same answer as you. So
Fair
I'm
enough.
curious. I'm curious what you have to say, and then I'll call my shot as well.
All right. Well, I'll do it. I'll go first, but I want to make clear this is not in any way gambling advice. Please do not put any money down on money lines based on what we say on this podcast. I will not support that at all. I do not know enough, but I'm saying 26. I feel like 26 is a good number. It's a major, major improvement from what they did last season. Even just getting to 24 would be a 10-win improvement one season to the next, right? So that in and of itself is a little bit more rare historically. So the fact that, maybe it's a 12-game improvement on the backs of Cade and these veterans who've come in and hopefully they'll make an impact, right? I really struggle to see how a team that won as few games as they did this past season can really, in one offseason, exceed 30 with more or less the same core. Um, I very much like what happened this offseason roster wise. I like how they augmented these guys, these young players that they did have in house to try and set them up more for success. But I think it'd be lying to ourselves a little bit if we didn't, in some part, blame those young players for the output that we got last season. So I worry that there's still something a little more structural going on, not necessarily in terms of the organization or anything, but just in terms of putting the young players that are on the roster together. That there may just be inherent problems to that don't necessarily get fixed by simply adding veteran shooters. So, all that said, I'm still very optimistic. Obviously, I'm super excited to watch the Pistons games this season. I'm pumped for it. I think Cade's going to have a big year. I think Ivey's going to have a big year. But I'm thinking 26 wins, and that is not putting you in the play-in conversation, notably. So that's where I'm at. Where are you?
That's fair. I'm a little bit higher than you. I'm gonna say 29, and
Okay.
I wasn't comfortable getting to that 30 game
Yeah.
threshold. Like that's a huge leap. I think there is a little bit of an element of looking at last season and going year over year improvement. Like last year, even though uh, it was so bad, it's like hard to even explain. I think you could say the final record was a bit of an anomaly just because of how that losing streak went and everything just stacking upon everything. And I think there were some glaring needs that this roster had that, I mean, the shooting was definitely addressed. Was it addressed the best that it could be? I mean, probably not, but you made some real acquisitions there. I think defense is the big swing thing. This like roster isn't really set up to be like I don't think they're going to be near a top 10 defense or anything like that. You still have room to grow there. I mean, I think they're going to compete, and especially the young guys are going to have that energy to at least give that effort on defense, but I think they're going to win more games, but it's going to be more on the back of the improvement that we're seeing on offense and putting Cade and Ivy and even Jalen Duren, and giving them more resources. You added guys to use some like coach PR speak that raised the floor on this team. So I think I think they could flirt with 30 wins. I'm not totally comfortable with like going out on a limb and saying that they will do that, but I think they could be near close to it.
I mean, it's one of those like obviously we're all rooting for it, right? I mean, if they get to the play-in, oh my gosh, I'll we will be over the moon excited. I'll be over the moon excited. It'll be an incredible run. Maybe they got some like some Tigers magic in them. Maybe the Tigers season ends and it transfers over to the Pistons. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm with you though. Realistically, 30 feels like a oddly hard line to cross. That line between being a 30 winner above team where it feels like you're ascending and there are a lot of very strong core pieces to the roster versus sub 30s and you feel like we've got a few and there's a lot more work to be done. I'm with you. It just kind of feels like it's more of the latter more so than the former. I'm going to throw this one to you first then. Kind of a fun one. What is the like hottest take that you are confident in going into the season? So like you can't just throw out that Cade's going to average 35 points per game, all right? You have to be not only a little bit out on a limb with what the prediction is, but you also have to like believe it in your core. That's going to happen. So what is it for you?
Man, so I had one for this, but I'm not super confident. So I think I'm going to change my answer and save what I was initially thinking of for just general predictions that we'll talk about next. So I think that I'm confident that Malik Beasley can average 15 points a game on this team. I think that's asking for a lot with the young guys that you have that you're trying to give all the minutes to and all the opportunity to. But I just think he's a shooter and a scorer, just a type of player that this team hasn't really had. And I think the role that he can play on this team could be a little bit bigger than we're expecting, especially if the Asar Thompson news, like if he's not ready to go for a little bit, and just how we saw Tim Hardaway perform in preseason, I think Malik Beasley gets the nod there, and this team's really going to go to him to help space the floor and also get on a heater. Just for context, he averaged 11.3 with Milwaukee last season, total 12.7 the season before with Utah, and then the Lakers when he was traded over. So I just think that what he can do, and specifically the role, might be a little bit larger than what we were planning for. And maybe he gets traded in the middle of the season, but as long as he's on the roster, I think he is a unique player that the team hasn't really had in a while. And I honestly trust him a little bit more than like Tim Hardaway Jr. to be that floor spacer that you look to more often than not.
All right. I can kind of see it. And I think especially with how it's looking like he's probably starting instead of Simone Fontecchio, which I don't think either of us would have guessed coming into the season. I think for the most part, if I'm remembering correctly, conversations that you and I had, it was more will Malik Beasley start over Jaden Ivey? Not
Yep.
necessarily, you're right. So not necessarily at the three, but he looks like he probably will if we can take anything from these early rotations away from the preseason. So if he does, I think that absolutely helps. The only, I don't know, it may be a problem, maybe not. It's an incredible luxury. He's your fourth option, right? I mean, if he's
Hmm.
in that starting lineup, he's behind Cade, Ivy, and Harris. I think you could confidently put him over Jalen Duren, but that's it. So, man, how crazy would it be to have your fourth option on offense scoring more than 15 points per game, right? Like, what a luxury that would be. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and it might be a little high, but I think
Well, but I
he's
could
more
see
than
it though. If he gets hot, I mean, if he's making three, close to four 3-pointers per game, that's already getting him at 10. Add some free
yeah.
throws, a couple of layups here and there. He's there. It's reachable. That's the thing. It is.
Yeah, and he was trying to do more than just be a shooter in the preseason. I mean, there were some turnover thing. Like, I don't think he'll do as much on ball as we saw in the preseason, but it was I guess just enticing that he was trying to do those things and just be more than a one-dimensional player. So I think it's possible. I'm curious what yours is because there's another one that I'm a little bit confident in. But again, I don't want to steal anything from you.
I'm sticking to my guns. Jaden Ivey's averaging more than 20 points per
Okay.
game this season. I've said it before, and I just believe it in my soul. I think he's right there. He's taking that number two mantle away from Tobias Harris as we speak, even in this preseason. He's looked so good attacking the basket and being more of a score first, off ball slash combo guard type of player. The exact type of player he was projected to be when he was coming out of Purdue. So I am drinking the Jaden Ivey Kool-Aid. I think it's happening. Cade will be, 24, 25 a night, and then Jaden's at maybe 21, maybe 20 and a half, something like that. I think I think it's happening. I'm buying stock. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, if the preseason has shown us anything, I mean, I it looks like he's capable of making that leap, and all the conversations of different players across the league, like young guys that you're like, okay, a change of scenery might do this guy wonders, and he can
Mhm.
really break out. Like it might just be a change of system, a change of coach for Jaden Ivey. Obviously, the situation with Monty Williams was really weird, and who knows what happened there. But hopefully, everything that happened this offseason, new front office, new coaching staff, new system that seems to be like prioritizing Jaden Ivey in a sense, can really allow him to make that leap. So, it's certainly possible, and the preseason that he put up was definitely encouraging.
Well, and I think that he's helping himself as much as Bickerstaff's goal to get him the ball on the move more often is helping him as well. So not only is Jaden Ivey a very good isolation basketball player, he was actually one of the best on the team last season, just because he's so dang athletic. He's so fast with his first step. So you already had that kind of as a strength, and now you're consistently, at least in the preseason, they have been consistently putting him in positions where it's already a slanted floor and asking him to take advantage and attack downhill from that. So systematically, like you said, that extremely helpful, makes his life so much easier. But on top of that, he looks thicker to me this year. He looks stronger. He looks like he put on a lot of muscle over the offseason. And he was already a guy that got to the free throw line a lot. So now, not only is he being put in a position by his coach to get to the rim more frequently, but he also looks like a guy that can take that beating in the paint more frequently. And that's going to, more and ones, more free throws, more just, it doesn't matter that they called the foul or not. He still made the layup, right? Things like that. So I really think that the system and his improvement over the offseason in his body is really, really going to let him level up. I'm very excited to see it.
He looks uh, he was. I mean, I think there were some struggles last year, but
Hmm.
he looks really confident too,
Yes. Yeah.
which like does wonders for you as a just decision maker, making the right read and everything. Like, so obviously we haven't seen basketball when it counts yet, but I just think the 5 preseason games, he's looked super confident too, which can only encourage you that he is capable and it's realistic that he can take that step too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last prediction here. This is just like carte blanche, whatever you want. Just make a prediction. Something you're confident in is going to happen this season with our Detroit Pistons.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you with 2 quick ones. The first one I think is a little more realistic. I think Ron Holland is more ready than we thought he was. I mean, there's definitely a ton of stuff to work on and clean up. He can be a little sporadic at times. The handles loose and needs to tighten that up. And over his first few years in the league, he needs to add some strength as well. But I just think his defensive effort is gonna potentially carve out a bigger role for him than we might have thought as well. Something I noticed in the last preseason game with the Cavs, he was sort of doing this thing where there was a made bucket for the Pistons, he was like creeping, like trying to hide
Jose
himself.
Alvaradoing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was trying to do the GTA thing, and I think I mean, first of all, that's so fun, and I think he's really going to try to make plays defensively. That's definitely a recipe to get into foul trouble. But I was encouraged. Like he missed a shot against Cleveland too, and he was like right up checking Donovan Mitchell full court, like on ball. So I just think things like that, as well as what he does in transition and how he can get to the rim as well. The shot is obviously a work in progress, but I think he might be more ready than I initially thought he was.
The offense is actually what's really stood out to me so far this preseason. And so I think you're right. I completely agree with you. I think he's going to have a role this year, even if it might be small. He's too talented not to. But what really is going to force, in my opinion, JB Bickerstaff's hand is what he can do, oddly enough, in the half court on offense. All right. So, fans, we are absolutely right. Ron Holland is very raw. Ron Holland needs to tighten up his ball handling. We're absolutely right. Ron Holland needs to become a better 3-point shooter and a better decision maker as a passer. Both of those things absolutely true. But what has stood out to me during these preseason games is that I'm not sure I can name 3, maybe 4 players that are better at creating an initial advantage one-on-one with the ball in their hand than Ron Holland already. He is incredibly difficult to stay in front of. He has a fantastic first step. He's long and he's very physical. So he gave Evan Mobley fits at points during that Cavs game. He was making life hard for Kevin Durant at periods of time during the Suns game. The Bucks were throwing multiple players at him. And every now and then, it's not every time, but he flashes in the half court from a standstill, being able to just create an initial advantage. And to me, I think that that is an incredibly valuable skill. One, in the NBA, where the majority of offense, it's structured, but it's structured read and react. So if you could get guys in positions to create those advantages, where now we can read and react off a shifting defense, it's incredibly valuable. So Ron Holland being able to do that in spurts, you're not going to ask him to do it all the time, but as maybe a bit of a counterpunch off the bench, along with all that he does on defense, along with all the effort and energy that he plays with. That's the stuff that makes it difficult for a coach not to play you. And then I think this on offense, the fact that, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, probably Jalen Duren. Am I forgetting anybody? Just in terms of an initial downhill beat you off 1 or 2 steps guys on this roster. I mean, it's not Asar. He's too stiff.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's not anyone else, at least unless unless we're both forgetting someone, there's really not anyone else. So I think those things, like, that's what forces the coach's hand. Like, you're
Yeah.
making it hard for me not to play you. Now I have to play you because now, even though you can't shoot, even though your decision making shoddy, right? You can create the advantage, and that is incredibly valuable. So I'm with you. I think he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think for someone else, like Simone Fontecchio has flashed a little bit, like off
That's a good
the.
one because he's physical and he's decisive. That's a really good one.
Yeah, but other than like, I think with Ron, like there was when Ron knocked down a three against the Cavs, and it was because Ty Jerome went under a screen on him. So opponents are going to give Ron Holland an advantage. Like they're not gonna guard him. They'll guard him closely, but they're going to give him something. And even in the game, he did a hit with Bally Sports that where he was talking about something he's trying to improve is just reading defenses and seeing what they're giving to him is something that he really wants to work on. I mean, I think it, on the perimeter, it's gonna be pretty clear for him. Like he's gonna get that a lot, but it's what else can you create and read? And I mean, if he can keep doing that, I think he might play himself into more minutes than we're expecting, especially if there's mid-season trades or whatever might come up. And also, you just drafted him 5th overall, and
True. Yeah, that too.
exactly you're not exactly going for a championship this year, so you want to give that guy some run.
All right, here was my general prediction. Just kind of a fun one. It's not even like on the court, I guess, related. Cade Cunningham's making an all-star game. I think that's happening this year. I think it'll be fun, and he's going to play his butt off, and he's got enough national attention / buzz. Like every now and then he pops up in like ESPN conversations here and there. I just think there's awareness of him, and then now he's going to take another step forward as a player. So I think it's his turn. I think it's his time.
Yes, especially just with an elevated roster around him. Like I think he'll be able to play his way into more assists just because he has more guys around him who will knock down shots. So yeah, and I trust him to take that leap as well. I mean, there's some politicking with it, obviously, but I think if the Pistons are showing some side of improvement and Cade Cunningham is really the driving force for it, I think that's definitely doable. Like we've seen younger players get that nod, and I mean he probably deserves it anyway. But there'll be some other factors at play too.
All right, let's
Wait, sorry
before we
to
get into questions, yeah, give your other one. What do you got? What do you got?
Yeah, so this is actually what I was gonna say for what I'm most confident in, but I couldn't bring myself to it because it's literally a game of chance. I said it before. I think the Pistons are gonna win the lottery next year, even if they make this
I love
improvement.
it.
Like I think the basketball gods will reward them if they do take those steps, and then you get a true. Maybe there is the second guy on the roster for Cade, but you could get a true I don't know if I want to say generational, but one of the most hyped and great prospects, especially defensively, in Cooper Flag. So I don't think that there's necessary like the lottery's a crapshoot now, and I think the lottery gods and the basketball gods might pay off the Pistons for the past few years of like falling to 5th.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's get to some of these. Hey, since we're talking about Cade, actually, we got a couple of live questions on Cade and this one from the chat. So let's just run through all of them right now. So this is from Rames. DBB comments says Cade looks like he's on pace this preseason to average 9 or 10 assists per game. Should we revise our season assist projections for him? I believe both of us said either 7 or 8. So should we bump that up to maybe 10?
I think 9 is more likely if he's going to take that leap. I just think 10 is super high, but like I just said, the team around him is definitely plays to averaging more assists as well. So he was at 7.5 last season, 6 flat the year before. I think he can definitely go up from there, especially when you consider the rosters he was playing with.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. Like, I think he's talented enough to do it. I think he's talented enough for 9, 10, 11 assists, what have you. But at the same time, like, that is a lot. There is a very short list of players that have averaged more than 10 assists per game. Like, you wouldn't think that it's as rare as it is, but in the entire history of the league, it is a real achievement to get up over 10 assists per game. So, like, I think Cade is talented enough to do it. Um, I guess it's a question of if he wants to do it and if the guys around him are good enough to make a lot of shots. But, like, I don't know, could we see a jump from 7.5 to 8 or 8.5? Yeah, like, I think that could totally be on the table. Wouldn't surprise me at all. 9 or 10 is just a lot to ask. It's just a lot to ask. How about this? So Derek Brown wants to know if we think Cade Cunningham shoots too many mid-range shots and should instead shoot more threes. And then Mike Nichols, both of these in the live chat, says, do you think that Cade will shoot deeper threes, kind of like Doncic, Steph, Trae Young does this as well, other guys that really get pressed up on in the pick and roll tend to do. So one, does Cade shoot too many mid-range shots? And then two, if he needs to shoot more threes, do you think they're going to be deeper than they were last year?
I just think he's so efficient in the mid range that, like, I don't want to say he shoots too many shots, but then you could look at it analytically and be like, should we turn down those looks for a three, even if it's not Cade, just passing back to someone else, whatever it might be. So yeah, and he's been more effective in the mid range than from three. So excuse me, that plays into it a little bit too. So I think it's definitely something that you could keep an eye on, but I don't think I can say that he takes too many in the mid range, even though the league is moving away from it. There's not many players like that. I just think Cade can get it going from there. And hey, if that shot is as clean and as effective, and you know it's going to drop as like a layup, why not take him? But yeah, obviously want to see him step back and hit more threes as well, and maybe pass up some of those mid rangers to get a good look at three. And also,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to quickly say on the longer range, I feel like maybe he could get there. I feel like he's just not there yet. And I feel like he also doesn't really need to be. He's going to be the center of opposing game plans. So teams are going to make it hard for him from anywhere on the floor. So if he has to step it out a bit further, as long as he can be somewhat effective, fine. I'm just like not sure if you really want those yet, but hey, it would be super fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of naturally going to happen for him as he continues to get more pressure as a ball handler, and teams pick him up earlier to try and slow down getting into the offensive set. Like, he's going to get pushed a little bit further away from the rim. Where I think a notable difference might be is, like, you see Doncic spot up from deeper. I doubt that is something that we're going to start seeing Cade do. It's one thing for, like, you have to set the ball screen up higher. So now his 3-point shot off that screen is maybe, like a foot further back than it was before. Like, that almost certainly, yeah, that's probably going to happen. But seeing him like spot up a few feet beyond the 3-point line more so than he would have already, I think that's probably not going to happen yet. Maybe some point in the future, but not yet. And you make a good point with the analytics part of this too. So the reason that the 3-point shot and the layup are looked at as the most efficient live shots in basketball is the point per distance thing. That's essentially the, like, cold basic calculation that's going on there. So in reality, it matters who's taking the shot, right? So if Cade Cunningham is taking a contested mid-range shot, he needs to be significantly better than the alternative kick-out guy for three, at least on that specific possession. So if it's a guy like Malik Beasley that's wide open, maybe you'd say, okay, Cade, you need to kick that ball out. If it's not, if it's Ron Holland out there, then no, Cade really should be taking the shot. But I would say that the other thing you have to add on to this is there is a little bit of a snowball effect. As a player, if you see that ball going through, you start feeling better, start playing a little bit better, right? So if Cade is just, either looking to get himself going for the good of the team, essentially, or if he's already rolling, then I think that kind of tilts the scales a little bit more as well, right? Like he doesn't have to be as much better on a per possession basis as the alternative kick out option from three. So there's the little mathiness that it just depends a little bit, but I like the mid-range shots that he shoots. So I think he takes good mid-range shots.
Yeah, and this isn't like numbers based or anything, but we've seen it in a ton of games where Cade gets going in the mid range, and whatever shot he takes, you're confident that you're going to see it drop. So I think when you have a player like that, you can't really actively tell them to turn those away. Like you said, Wes, if there's a better look and there's a guy that you're confident can knock it down, certainly take it. But I think Cade's a bit of an anomaly in a sense where his mid-range isn't as inefficient of a shot as it is for most players in the league.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's consistently now for a season and a half, I guess, been one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA. So it's not like, you're looking at Asar Thompson and you're saying, well, you're bad from 16 feet and you're bad from three, so take less 16-footers and take more threes. Like if our options are bad both ways, then okay, yeah, I get the added statistical, the upside's higher, right? But Cade's very good in the mid-range, so it kind of tilts things a little bit more. Let's get to this one. This says ABW17 in the DBB comments says, let's be optimistic for a moment and assume that what we've seen from Jaden Ivey is sustained into the season. What kind of stat line could you see for him as a high-end outcome? So if everything goes right for Jaden Ivey, what's his stat line?
Okay, so I'm not gonna get to 20 because Wes, you're the pioneer of the Jaden Ivey 20 point per game brigade, but he averaged 15.4 last year, rookie season 16.3. If we're taking what we've seen and assuming it's for real, it's going to carry over into the regular season, he's going to hit a high-end outcome. I'm going to say 18 and a half. 3.8 assists per game last year, rookie season 5.2. I think he'll be closer to what he was in year two just because Cade was hurt most of Jaden Ivey's rookie season. So I think he'll be somewhere around that 4 assists per game. Maybe it'll go up a little bit if he is running the second unit as much as we think he will. And then just in general, I think if he is going to take that leap, you have to see the efficiency go up as well. Just for 3-point percentage, he was at 33.6 last year on 4.8 attempts per game. I think he has to get that up a bit to at least league average, be somewhere in that 35-36% range. All I think is doable. And now that I said Malik Beasley can average 15 points a game earlier, it would definitely have to go through the roster and make sure. I'm not saying that the Pistons are going to score like 150 points a game, but I think that is realistic for Jaden Ivey.
All right, I think you're right. So 4 or 5 assists. Let's just say 5 because I am assuming that he's going to end up running the show as the de facto backup point guard more often than not. So 5 assists per game, 5 rebounds just kind of feels about right. I mean, he as a rookie, oh no, never mind. So as a rookie, he was 3.9, last season 3.4. So let's just call it 4 rebounds to be consistent. He's been doing that for the past 2 seasons. So I think that'll stay the same. 5 assists, 3 rebounds, 21 points per game. I'm calling it. I think that's the high end outcome here. If he's going to do it, one, it's going to be because of everything we've seen so far in the preseason, right? He's aggressive, he's decisive, he's making good decisions when he's being decisive, and he's getting to the rim a lot. I think more important, honestly, than that 3-point percentage, like even if it continues to hover around 34, of course, that's not ideal. You would like that to go up. But we talked about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago. He needs to get his field goal percentage up. So he needs to be better around the rim and with that little floater counterpunch option when you get close to the rim. Last season, he was at 43% from the floor. If he could get that up to 47, 48, I think that 21 number is absolutely achievable on not that many more attempts. So he averaged last year was 12 and a half. I could see that being 14 if he's the number 2 option, and Cade's getting close to 20 but not quite 20. So yeah, I think it's a big year for Jaden Ivey. If everything goes right, that's the high end upside in my opinion. I think it's way up there. Like if he does that type of leap this season, you're looking at someone that's going to get most improved buzz, and it'd be deserved.
Yeah, another thing is just because of the type of player he is, his game is built to be able to get to the line. He's been a pretty consistent 75% free throw shooter. If he can get that up to around 80, that hikes everything up a little bit there. The one question I have is the past 2 seasons, he's averaged just below 5 threes a game. Like, do you think he's going to take that many threes this year with the shooting that the Pistons added? I mean, it's definitely a element of his game where we want to see him take a leap, but do you think that he might pass up some threes to just get to the rim, get to the line, and score in other ways?
That's a good question. I think to me, 34%, even if that's where it stays, is enough to justify, 4, maybe 5-ish attempts per game, just as a counterpunch. I do believe that he's going to have an opportunity to be more selective, though, this season, and maybe that's where a little bit of a jump in that percentage will go. Like, Jaden Ivey's not going to be the guy to get those end of shot clock grenades as often this year. You have better outlets to go to. I mean, just even as a guy getting a kick out from Cade Cunningham with the idea that he's going to take a jump shot, right, instead of driving to the hoop. If we get a situation that happens frequently during games where Cade draws a crowd in the paint and kicks out to somebody, there are better options other than Jaden Ivey that'll presumably be out on the floor. And if Jaden gets it, the better play is probably to make the one more pass, right? The lane is congested, get it to your great shooter. So I do think he's going to get to be a little bit more selective. I'm just skeptical that the attempts would go down all that much. I mean, for a guard in today's NBA, 4 to 5 attempts is kind of just the baseline expectation. It's not high, right? Like Isaiah Stewart getting 5 attempts, that would be great. Jaden Ivey, it's almost baked into the cake at this point. I think with the free throw attempts, though, that might be where we see even more of a jump, right? So last year was 3.9. I could see that getting up over 5, 5.5, maybe even 6. Like he really might be a bit of a foul merchant this year, and that could be huge for the Pistons and for him. That could be huge.
Yeah, and he was close to 5 free throw attempts per game his rookie season too.
Mm-hmm.
So even if he can just get back to that would be a win too.
All right, let's jump into these last couple that we have. This is from Darylicious in the DBB comments. Says, how long does it take to be fully up to speed with a new coaching staff scheme? Should we expect inconsistencies early in the year? And when does that stop being an excuse?
I think the one thing that plays to the Pistons' advantage is, like you mentioned earlier, Wes, your core players are intact still, so they have experience playing alongside each other. Yes, you're adding new variables into that, but I think that might help. And I think JB Bickerstaff overall is trying to put his young players and veterans too in positions that play to their skills and help them succeed. Yes, I don't really know fully what's going on behind the scenes. I'm sure there's a ton of learning and going to be an adjustment period. And maybe we'll see that. I mean, I'm sure we will in the regular season, but things looked pretty solid for the most part in the preseason as well. So hopefully that's an encouraging sign. I mean, I think you have to expect some sort of inconsistencies just because you do have that new coaching staff and because of how young this team is. I'd say give them 20 games is a lot, but I feel like after that like quarter mark of the season, at least your starters, your main group should have things under the belt that gives them time to develop some chemistry with the new guys that they're playing with. And from what we've seen in training camp and preseason, the stories and clips we've seen of these guys talking, it does seem that there's good energy, at the very least, better energy than there was last year. So I think that helps the Pistons a bit too. But at the same time, I don't think with a new coaching staff and all the changes that went on, you can expect these guys to be fully up to speed heading into the regular season. It'll be some sort of rocky road, but hopefully, because of what's playing in their court, that period can be shortened a bit.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, even with the like about a quarter of the way through the year. This is absolutely not a one-to-one comparison, but in my experience, right? So when I made the jump from high school to college, the uh it took me about a quarter-ish away into the season to not to simply know the plays and understand the system, but to be in practice at least, and in like JV type games, operating within that system kind of instinctually, where you're no longer thinking about where you're supposed to be, where you have to be. And I'll say with that, I mean this includes when you show up to campus, you're doing preseason workouts, right? Where yeah, the coach can't be there, okay, but all the seniors and the upperclassmen, they know the system and they're teaching it to you in open gyms, right? So like there was quite a bit of runway that I had, and it still took me and the rest of our freshmen too. It wasn't just me, but the rest of my freshman class, it took us about a quarter of the way into that season before we were truly like effective and operating within the system, um, without thinking about it actively. So I say that to say that the NBA is a much more difficult level of basketball than Division III college basketball. The NBA's playbooks and offensive systems are much more complicated than Division III college basketball, and NBA players are much better basketball players and students of basketball than we were as freshman Division III basketball players. So I feel like maybe that 20 game mark, like you said, or maybe just a little bit under that, is probably about right. Where now I'm sure everyone on the roster understands what the scheme is, what the plays are, and where they're supposed to be. I'm sure there's also still a little bit of thinking about, okay, Cade made this pass. What do I do now? Or even if we're playing more of a read and react, like what is the right read and the right reaction in this specific instance? So I bet that like you said, I feel like 20 games, pretty good mark, should be gone by then. But directly to the question, should there be inconsistencies early on in the year? Yeah, there's going to be. And it's not just the scheme thing either, right? This is a very young basketball team. So not only is it a new coach instituting a new system where NBA veterans would be having issues with onboarding it, NBA veterans might take 10 or 15 games. But you say that they're young players now, yeah, there's going to be inconsistencies. So I'm with you. Quarter of the season, that feels about right to me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, you can't expect it to be a fully well-oiled machine right out of the gate, but hopefully there are some factors that uh, lead to these guys benefit. And I just think the different after such a bad season and a weird situation with coaching and everything like that. Hopefully the new energy and maybe just some of that like a deeper or new sense of buy-in helps as well.
I will say too that the scheme that it seems like Bickerstaff is trying to implement, the fact that it is much more read and react actually does make it more difficult, kind of counterintuitively, to onboard to all of these new young guys. And I say that not because it's more difficult to understand the plays themselves. It's actually easier. There are less moving parts in the actual play because most of these are, we're going to have an initial reaction and now we're going to play drive and kick, or just kind of a motion play off of your teammates kind of offense. But it's not an issue, but what makes it more challenging is that now I'm not only in a more traditional system, I would be simply trying to understand where I am and where I'm supposed to be inside this play structure that coach has designed and told me and I've studied. Whereas now that we're playing more of a read and react, I'm trying to understand where I'm supposed to be, not only based on what the guy with the ball did, but what's the guy to my right doing, and what's the defense in front of me doing, and what's the guy in the opposite corner doing? Is he lifting? Do I need to drop? Like, there's just much more of a feel, and I need to understand my teammates and what they want to do that you just don't get if it's a very top-down, coach-designed system. So it's easier in some ways and harder in others. And in this case, I might say it's even more challenging because you're asking, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds to understand all four other guys out on the court and understand what the other five defenders are doing, and then just kind of read it and make the right decisions from there, play fluid and natural. So it's a challenge, but it'll look really good when it all starts working later on in the season. It'll be fun. I think they'll be a good offense. But let's end on this one, maybe more of a positive. Uncle Sam says, how confident are we after this preseason with that crazy start to the schedule that the Pistons have? Reminder, the Pistons' start of the schedule doesn't look easy. So how you feeling? You feeling confident?
I mean, so looking at the schedule, they're playing playoff teams in each of their first 6 games until they get the Nets on November 3rd. So, yeah, definitely not an ideal start to the season, but hopefully there are what we saw, and it's going to be totally different. I'm not saying to take everything you see in the preseason as truth, but hopefully we see some of that stuff carry over. And I think just like the compete level that we've seen from a number of players has looked really good. And I think even if you have this tough stretch and you're losing to these teams that are better than you and are competing for something, even if you can stick in those games and not just totally get blown out, I think that will help. I guess my worry would be is if you do lose like your first 6 games, for example, like hopefully you can find a win or 2 or 3 in there, because that'll do a ton for the confidence. But even if it is the worst case scenario and they start the season on a losing streak, like hopefully they're still in these games, of course, for the watch factor for us, but just so they can build that chemistry and get used to the new system, everything new that happened this off season. Because we can be excited, and you really get tested when things start going wrong. So hopefully, even if things are going wrong, you still see them in games, and that'll make it more watchable for everyone, but also just easier to, I guess, for these guys to adjust to everything new that happened and all the change of the off season.
Yeah, I mean, just on like a positive note, right? Like you bring up the compete level, the energy, the effort that they played with in the preseason. I don't think it was ever more evident than in that Cavs game where there was a period in the second quarter early where the Pistons bench guys were outscoring the Cavs starters for like a 5-minute stretch, And it's not because the Cavs starters were actually flummoxed by the Pistons bench and that the Pistons bench is incredibly talented compared to who the Cavaliers are starting. That's obviously not true. What was happening was just that the Pistons bench guys were playing their butt off, and the the Cavs weren't because it's the preseason game and Donovan Mitchell's an all-star, right? So I think, yeah, it's a tough schedule, but if nothing else, it's early in the season and you got a young team that's very energetic. You might catch a few people. You might catch a Pacers team right off the jump that they're a little more veteran. Yeah, well, they overachieved and, they might just be looking past it a little bit, right? The Cavs are a team that the Pistons play early on in the schedule too. Like, again, if you catch them on a night where, hey, it's October or early November and they're just not all there yet, right? Because it's not April. Yeah, I think you can catch some guys like that. So, or catch some teams like that anyway. So, the schedule's hard. I don't think it's hopeless. I don't think they're going to have a winning record through it, but yeah, I'd be surprised if they're 0-6. I think they steal one or two.
And JB will definitely want to get that Cavs game, and his players will want to get it for their new.
Remember the Dwayne Casey's first win against the Raptors on that last second little.
Oh, of course.
Was that Reggie Bullock? What did Reggie Bullock do? Was it a tip-in or something?
I think
it was a blob play.
Yeah, I mean Dwayne Casey owned the Raptors for that stretch. So yeah, I mean hopefully the Pistons are going to play the Cavs 4 times this season. So that gives you that extra factor right there alone. So hopefully, I mean, hey, if they're going to start the season off on a rough note just because of the schedule, I hope that's one that they'll at least have circled on their calendar and will get up a little bit extra for. I mean, they'll need to for every game, but that one definitely is one I'm excited for.
Well, and I'll say this, and I'll let you respond, and then we'll close it out. We'll let everyone go. But I think for me, I really hope that fans this year, that we can all just appreciate the steps that the young players are taking, and then on top of that compete level, assuming that it transfers through, right? Assuming that the team actually does play this hard with this level of intensity, effort, and energy more nights than not. I think that's going to be entertaining basketball, whether or not they win games. Even if they start 0-6, if they play like that, they're going to be in the majority of those games. It'll be competitive. It'll be entertaining. And look, after last season, I don't know how much more you could ask for than that. So I think that no matter what happens here in this early stretch, yes, it's tough. Yes, the teams they're playing are good. But if it's entertaining basketball and they're competitive games because these young players they've upped their give a crap and it shows, I think that is an incredible win. And I, at least as a fan, I'm going to be really excited to see it. So I know that's not a pure positive, but I think that's a positive. I think that's a really positive thing.
I think that puts a bow on it pretty perfectly. And also just, again, the shooters will help. Having a guy like Tobias Harris definitely helps, who we've talked about it before. Hopefully he can get going in the first quarter and just keep everything everything afloat, even if Cade's off to a slow start, whatever it might be. So there's more resources that are hopefully more effective, and hopefully we see it carry into the regular season. So excited to next week be back and talk about some basketball that actually counts. I think we'll just have the opener behind us when we record next, so that'll be a fun one to dive into. Thank you everyone for joining today. Excited to get the season underway. Just a reminder, if you're watching us live on YouTube, listening in your podcast feed, hit the subscribe button, leave us a review. Really helps us out, and we appreciate you all. And reminder, you can call our phone line to ask a question and hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. Special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you.